A drumbeat for justice. My name is Rachel Monroe. For nearly 15 years, I've worked as a pediatric nurse at Ridgefield Memorial Hospital. I've spent more nights comforting frightened children than I can count, and more days advocating for patients who couldn't always explain what hurt. But nothing could prepare me for the moment someone pulled a gun on my child over a cat in the road, and nothing about that moment has left me since. After my divorce 3 years ago, my world narrowed to two priorities: healing the young patients I cared for during the day and giving my son, Jonah, the most stable, loving life I could the rest of the time. Jonah is 16 and has Down syndrome. He is joyful in ways that break open even the coldest hearts. His smile is sunshine. His empathy, his willingness to comfort other those who don't understand him, makes him extraordinary. Jonah fell in love with drumming a few years ago. His occupational therapist suggested it to help with motor skills and focus, and it quickly became more than therapy. It became passion. Twice a week, we drive across town so he can take lessons from Mr. Alvarez at the Ridgefield Music Conservatory. Mr. Alvarez specializes in teaching students with different abilities. It's one of the few places where Jonah is seen not just for his challenges, but for his talent. Being a single mom to a special needs teenager while working full-time in healthcare is exhausting. For years, we lived in a cramped apartment with neighbors who didn't understand or want to understand Jonah's need to practice. One wall away, someone would bang on our shared wall whenever Jonah tapped his practice pad, even during daytime hours. I knew Jonah needed more space, safety, freedom. So I saved. Every dollar, every side shift, every overtime hour went into a modest dream. Last year, with help from my parents and 7 years of scrimping, I bought a small 3-bedroom house in Rosemeadow Hills. The neighborhood had good schools, paved sidewalks for Jonah to walk safely, and even a community center with inclusive programming. The house stretched my budget to its limits, but it was ours. Jonah had his own room. He decorated the walls with posters of his favorite drummers and framed pictures of the kit he someday hoped to own. Yellow always yellow because that's the color of joy to him. What I didn't account for was Meredith Langston. Meredith is the vice president of the Rosemeadow Hills Homeowners Association. Mid-40s, impeccably styled blonde hair that never seemed to move, even in wind. Every interaction with her felt like I was intruding on her curated version of suburban perfection. Her first words to me were not, "Welcome to the neighborhood," but "Garbage bins need to be behind the fence except on collection days." She handed me a 3-ring binder of HOA regulations before I'd even finished introducing myself or Jonah. Her eyes drifted to my son, who was excitedly exploring the front yard, vocalizing softly with joy. I saw the way her lips tightened at his sounds. "We also have strict noise ordinances," she added pointedly. My cousin, Grant McAllister, was helping us move that day. He overheard the exchange and stepped forward, 6'2", with the steady demeanor of someone who'd spent years under pressure. Grant is a former Marine sniper turned tactical consultant for police departments. What Meredith didn't know what no one knew was that he was also Jonah's biggest champion. He had taught Jonah how to play drums when our apartment wasn't conducive. He'd filled in the role of father figure ever since my ex left. "She seems lovely," Grant muttered sarcastically after Meredith stalked off. "Want me to run a background check?" "No," I laughed. "Let's try to make a good impression first." This neighborhood is a big step for Jonah. But we were only in Rosemeadow Hills 6 weeks before everything unraveled. That Thursday afternoon in March had started like any other. We were late to Jonah's drum lesson because I'd been stuck at a hospital meeting. As I backed out of the driveway, I saw Meredith standing on her porch, phone in hand, clearly documenting something across the street. Jonah was in the passenger seat, practicing finger patterns on his lap. "Mr. Alvarez said I might get to try advanced paradiddles today," he said, beaming. "And maybe we could talk about saving for real drums again." "We're still adding to your drum fund," I reminded him. "Just a few more months." We were half a mile from the house when a small orange tabby cat ran into the road. I slammed the brakes too hard, but we stopped in time. Jonah lurched forward, but he was buckled. His drumsticks clattered to the floor. "Kitty okay?" he asked, leaning to look out the window. "She's fine," I said, spotting the cat safe on the other side. But behind us, a white Range Rover honked aggressively. Through the mirror, I saw a familiar face, mouth moving in furious gestures. "Meredith." I raised a hand in apology and continued driving. But she followed, tailgating so closely that Jonah began rocking in his seat. "It's okay, Jonah," I said gently. "Almost there." Before I could calm him further, the Range Rover swerved in front of us, blocking both lanes. I slammed the brakes again. Meredith stormed from the driver's side, fury written across every inch of her face. "Stay in the car," I told Jonah, unbuckling. "Just keep doing your finger rhythms." I stepped out, heart racing. "Meredith, what are you doing?" "You slammed your brakes in the middle of the road over a cat," she screeched. "Do you even know how to drive?" "I didn't see you behind me," I said calmly. "It was instinct." "I'm sorry." "You endangered real people for a stray animal," she shouted. Jonah, visible through the windshield, had started flapping his hands as way of self-soothing. Meredith noticed. Her expression twisted into something cruel. "And that explains everything. You're too distracted playing nursemaid to your special needs son. This is why property values plummet when people like you move in." I froze. Her words hit like a slap. "His name is Jonah," I said, voice steady. "He has Down syndrome, and he's more compassionate than you'll ever be. Now move your car." What happened next plays in slow motion in my nightmares. Meredith's face turned red, eyes wild. She reached into her designer bag and pulled out a handgun. A small, deadly piece of metal pointed vaguely in my direction. "I'm on the HOA board," she said in a chillingly flat voice. "My husband builds half this county. You don't talk to me that way." "Please," I said, raising my hands. "There are people watching. This isn't worth it." Jonah was now crying in the car, terrified, rocking violently. His vocalizations grew louder. "Make him stop that racket," Meredith shouted. "He's mocking me. He's overwhelmed." I tried to explain. "That's how he copes. Please, just lower the—" A deafening crack silenced everything. The bullet shattered the passenger side window. Glass exploded around Jonah, who let out a terrified scream. I ran to him, yanking open the door. By a miracle, he wasn't physically hurt, just covered in shards and frozen in fear. He clung to me, sobbing, screaming about the gun. From down the street, I heard, "Rachel!" Grant was sprinting toward us. In moments, he assessed the scene, his military training visible in every movement. "Ma'am," he said to Meredith, calm but commanding, "put the weapon down." She blinked, confused, muttering something about Jonah provoking her. "On the ground." "Now," he repeated. She finally obeyed, and Grant secured the weapon, muttering, safety wasn't even on. Police sirens screamed toward us. Witnesses were everywhere. Cell phones out. Some crying. Some comforting Jonah, who was still shaking violently. Officers arrived, taking over the scene. Meredith was cuffed, protesting, now insisting her husband would fix this. He didn't. She was charged with 4 felonies: aggravated assault, endangering a minor, illegal firearm discharge, and criminal threats. Jonah needed trauma counseling. I needed legal advice. The HOA needed a reckoning. And it got one. Meredith was removed from the board. A retired judge named Harold Dent took over temporarily. He came to our home with tears in his eyes and said, "We failed you. But that ends now." HOA bylaws were rewritten with disability protections. Language about community standards was removed. Our neighbors, many who'd previously remained silent, brought food, flowers, offered repairs. Mr. Alvarez and the Music Center organized a community drum circle with Jonah as the featured performer. That day, he smiled again for the first time in weeks. Grant moved into a nearby condo. Close enough to help, far enough for space. But something shifted between us. Our bond deepened. We became more than family. Meredith took a plea deal, probation, loss of firearm rights, mandatory service at organizations serving people with disabilities. Her house went up for sale within a week. 3 months later, a new family moved in, parents of twin girls on the autism spectrum. We wanted a community that sees our kids, the mother told me. We think we've found it. I was asked to join the HOA board. I said yes. And Jonah? He got his yellow drum kit. He practices in the front yard now. No complaints. Only applause. The bullet hole in my car is gone. But I keep a shard of that glass in a jar on my dresser. Not as a reminder of trauma, but of transformation. Because from that moment of terror, something beautiful emerged. And like Jonah says, sometimes you gotta break a wall to make room for the music.